Revealed. Millionaire discovers Housekeeper's incredible sacrifice to protect his disabled mother. Thomas Hart stood at the window of his Maplewood home, the chill of twilight creeping in as he watched the bustling street below. His life was a whirlwind of meetings, deals, and late nights at the office, but behind the curtain of success loomed his biggest challenge, his mother, Ruth, who, at 72, was lost in a fog of confusion due to a rare neurological condition. She didn't recognize him some days, and the worry twisted in Thomas's gut like a heavy stone. To see her struggle was unbearable. It was in this turmoil that he found Maria, the resilient single mother who had come to help around the house. With her warm smile and unwavering strength, she rushed into their lives amid the chaos. Maria had 2 small children of her own. She juggled her jobs, refused to give up, and always had a glimmer of hope in her eyes. One day as they prepared dinner together, Maria looked at Ruth and gently asked her about her favorite memories. To Thomas's shock, Ruth's eyes lit up, as if she had been handed a lifeline. It was an extraordinary moment, the breakthrough he had yearned for. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days turned into weeks, Maria became a pillar in their home. She held Ruth's hand, reading her stories that sparked echoes of laughter long forgotten. With every gentle touch, Thomas saw Maria unravel the knots of his mother's mind, and it left him humbled. Yet, insecurities crept in like shadows. He watched her fill their home with love, while he chased promotions in a corporate race that often felt hollow. How could he hold on to his privilege while witnessing her sacrifice? Judgment from the neighborhood simmered beneath the surface, whispering suspicions about Maria and her deservingness. At coffee shops, snippets of conversations filled the air, with neighbors scrutinizing Thomas and Maria's growing camaraderie. It hurt him. They saw her as an outsider when all he witnessed was grace in the face of struggle. However, when tragedy struck, Maria's children faced a crisis. Thomas acted too quickly. He wanted to help, to extend a hand in ways he thought would lighten her burden. But the moment felt wrong. It overshadowed Maria's independence, making her proud spirit tremble. It was meant to be a gesture of support, yet it began to sow seeds of resentment. Their ensuing confrontation felt like a storm breaking. Maria's voice cut through the air as she expressed her fears, her hard-fought dignity on display. Suddenly it was apparent. This wasn't just about them. It was about the community that had overlooked the struggles of many for too long. As tensions rose, an unexpected bond ignited, echoing in the hearts of neighbors who finally began to see the truth of Maria's fierce determination, the incredible sacrifices she made each day. They started to rally around her, illuminating the very essence of community. As they stood together, hearts racing, Thomas felt the weight of realization settle. He was at a crossroads. The question stared him in the face. Would he humble himself to celebrate Maria's journey, or would the barriers they faced keep them apart? It was a pivotal moment, and he could feel the tremor of promise in the air as he took a breath and prepared to make a choice that would resonate far beyond themselves. Thomas took a step back, his heart pounding in his chest. Maria's words echoed in his mind, carving out a new path that demanded attention. He could see the strength in her eyes and the passion that drove her daily. There was love in that struggle, but he realized he had been blind to it, locked in a bubble of his own making. He had to find a way to break through the walls of privilege surrounding him. Feeling the pressure build, he decided it was time to act. He quickly sent texts to a few neighbors, inviting them for coffee the following Sunday. Unbelievable, but necessary. This gathering wouldn't be just about pleasantries. It would be his first step toward building a real community around Maria and her family. He hit send with a mix of excitement and dread. That Sunday morning felt different. The air was thick with anticipation as the neighbors filtered in. Thomas stood at the door, welcoming them with a smile that felt almost practiced. Maria was in the kitchen, preparing muffins like she always did, but today felt special. He could sense both her nervousness and her resolve. Once everyone settled around the dining table, Thomas cleared his throat. He felt the heat of the moment. "Thank you all for coming," he began, struggling to find the right words. "I know we've all heard things about Maria, seen the way she interacts with my mom and how she's been here for us, but today I want us to see her for who she really is, a dedicated mother, a friend, a fighter." The room grew silent. Eyes shifted to Maria, who stood frozen for a moment, surprise painting her face. "I want us to understand that sometimes the bravest among us face challenges we may not even notice," Thomas continued. "Maria deserves our support, not skepticism. We must lift each other up and create a community that stands together." Slowly, a few nods broke the silence, followed by soft murmurs of agreement. One neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Henderson, spoke up. "You're right, Thomas. We often fail to see those right in front of us, thinking they don't need our help. But sometimes it's precisely those people we should be standing beside." The conversation flowed, pooling around shared struggles and victories, and as it did, Thomas noticed Maria's shoulders relax. Her children were playing in the next room, oblivious yet content. This moment was about more than just the two of them. It was about changing perceptions, creating bonds. An idea struck him. What if we organize a fundraiser to help Maria and her children tackle the challenges they're facing? We could create a support network, with everyone bringing their skills to the table. Laughter bubbled up at the suggestion, quickly replaced by serious nods. "Count me in. I've got connections with local businesses. We can gather donations," someone chimed in, energizing the room. As the chatter grew louder, Thomas caught a glimpse of determination in Maria's eyes. She seemed on the verge of saying something, and when she finally spoke, her voice broke through the noise. "Thank you. Thank you for believing in me, in us. I just want a chance to show my kids that we can be strong as a family, that we belong." And in that moment, Thomas understood. This was more than a gesture of goodwill. It was a new beginning, a chance for Maria to shine, showing the world exactly who she was. But as the gathering progressed, something shifted. He noticed whispers among the neighbors, subtle glances were exchanged, and the air was charged again, charged with curiosity and something darker. Thomas felt the doubt creeping back into the conversation. Would they truly embrace this new narrative, or were they just waiting for something to tear it down? As the gathering reached its peak, Thomas stood there, heart racing. What would happen the next time they encountered those whispers outside? Would they falter under pressure, or would this community rise together in a way that truly mattered? As the laughter echoed in the warm kitchen, Thomas felt a pulse of weight in the air, his heart echoing the struggle he noticed flickering behind Maria's grateful smile. A silence prevailed as the gathering rippled with new energy, but Thomas couldn't shake the looming shadows of uncertainty that hovered just beyond the window. Mrs. Henderson was sharing a story about her own struggles, but Thomas's attention drifted to the glances exchanged among the neighbors. A group huddled near the end of the table, their whispers barely articulated words, but the tension hung palpable, reminding him of unsettling currents beneath calm waters. "Do you really think they need our help?" one voice questioned, low enough for only him to catch. Thomas felt a bolt of anger flare up within him. Did they see the same woman he was now fighting for? The gathering should have felt like a celebration, but the division lurking in the room grew thicker. As if sensing his unease, Maria glanced over, her eyes wide with uncertainty. He could almost hear her thoughts. Will they stand with us? Or will they hide in their assumptions? Might be a good idea to stay clear of any drama, another neighbor whispered, this one more forthright. Thomas's pulse quickened. Was this how shallow they had all been? Pushing back against the tide of doubt, Thomas decided to redirect the conversation. "Let's focus on the fundraiser," he exclaimed, his voice growing stronger. "It's a chance for us to show our support in a meaningful way." A few heads nodded, but he could sense a reluctance still. The unease was unmistakable. "How can we, ensure this goes smoothly?" one man asked, a frown etched on his face. Thomas felt the heat rise in his cheeks, but he clenched his jaw. "That's what this is for, to build trust and lift each other up. Isn't that what community means? Maria stepped forward then, her voice clear and steady. We've all faced challenges. None of us can walk this road alone, but it takes every one of us to make a difference. I don't want to just be another story or idea. I want to be part of this neighborhood, our neighborhood. Thomas watched her, a sense of admiration rising in his chest. The resolve in her tone pushed back against the whispers, wrapping the gathering in a fresh layer of understanding. But still, he could feel the resistance simmering. Then, Mrs. Henderson piped up again. I think we're all scared of making a mistake, but what if this is the leap we need, to be more than just neighbors sharing a fence? A ripple of agreement flowed through the room. Some seemed to lean toward her optimism, while others remained skeptical. The divide was apparent, and Thomas could feel the weight of expectation in the air. It was a reckoning. Who's willing to take that leap? Thomas asked, his pulse quickening. He locked eyes with Maria, who nodded as if to encourage him. Slowly hands began to raise, some cautious, others confident. But the shadows remained, lingering just outside the warmth of their gathering. Each hand seemed to represent more than support. They were commitments, vows to turn the tide. Yet Thomas knew deep down the journey ahead would not be easy. As they discussed ideas for the fundraiser, combining skills and resources, a sense of hope washed over the room. Laughter returned at times, mixing with bursts of creativity, yet the underlying tension gnawed at him. What would happen when the whispers transformed into louder voices? How would they truly navigate the doubts that had crept into their circle? In that moment, as ideas flowed and voices mingled, Thomas looked around, a mixture of hope and dread swelling within him. He understood this was just the beginning. Change would demand more than words. But could this community learn to embrace Maria, to lift her without hesitation? Would they stand firm against the storm brewing outside their door? The air was electric with possibility, but as the laughter slowly faded to soft chatter, he realized the true test was yet to come. Would they nurture their newfound bond, or would it all shatter at the first touch of resistance? The room hummed with new potential, yet that hum felt like an electric current, a blend of hope and anxiety. Thomas looked around the table, where ideas brewed, but also where unspoken fears lurked in their shadows. He could still see the wariness threading through smiles, hear the hesitance hiding behind soft laughter. Let's make this fun, Maria suggested, her voice lighting up with enthusiasm. We could have a bake sale, a yard sale, or even a community potluck. Everyone brings their favorite dish. Her eyes sparkled, and for a fleeting moment, he forgot the apprehension that clouded the air. Mrs. Henderson clapped her hands, her excitement infectious. I like that. Everyone loves good food. It brings people together, just like we need to be. Slowly they began brainstorming, tossing around ideas like a game of catch. The conversation flowed, and for the first time that night, the walls seemed to bend toward unity. Still, with every idea pitched, a niggling doubt persisted in the back of Thomas's mind. As they mapped out plans, he stole glances at Maria, who stood tall at the end of the table, looking more and more like the backbone of their gathering. He admired her courage, her unwillingness to hide behind any self-doubt. But beneath his admiration, a fear simmered. Would her bravery shine through the inevitable storms that awaited? Yet, laughter punctuated the plans they made, filling the kitchen with warmth. Each chuckle felt vital, an act of defiance against the whispers outside. Thomas caught sight of one neighbor, Mr. Klein, leaning back with crossed arms, skepticism etched into his face. Thomas felt a pang in his gut, wondering what reservations tainted the man's refusal to join in. Just then, Maria turned toward him and caught his eye. Thomas, this is our chance to show everyone they matter, she urged, as if reading his thoughts. If we can come together like this, it means something. We owe it to one another. He nodded, but the weight of the battle ahead felt so real. The dining room light flickered, an oddly symbolic moment that compounded the tension brewing in corners of the room. The joy of the gathering couldn't completely drown out the shadows that lingered. I want to help, said a voice breaking through his thoughts. It was Jenna, a newer neighbor, whose gentle demeanor often kept her from being noticed. I could bring my kids to help set up tables or hand out flyers. They would love it. A chorus of enthusiasm erupted, pulling Thomas back into the moment. He felt something shift, a collective willingness to step out of their comfort zones. Yet, the knot in his stomach tightened. He heard the whispers again, warned by those who would condemn their connection to Maria, and it unsettled him. As discussions of timeframes and responsibilities unfolded, Thomas wrestled against his instinct to retreat. But something in Maria's hopeful expression granted him resolve. If not now, when would they step forward to cast aside their barriers? He recognized a chance for transformation, albeit it felt perilously fragile. Then, bothering him like a persistent itch, Mrs. Henderson offered an unexpected insight. What if we share our own stories at the event? Let's open up about what it means to be a community. That way, we can all connect and understand how important it is to help each other. The idea silenced the room. Thomas could see its impact settle in the eyes of the neighbors, shifting from casual chatter to deep contemplation. But as much as they wanted to step forward, he sensed the turbulence they were all grappling with. Before Thomas could voice his concerns, the doorbell chimed. A rush of cold air engulfed them, and he swallowed hard. Who would show up now? Would it be the ones curious about their gathering, or those still entrenched in doubts? As the door swung open, the weight of their choice hung in the air, a reminder of the challenges still ahead. Thomas stole a glance at Maria, and they both shared a moment of unspoken reassurance. With his heart pounding like a drum, he wondered if tonight would mark the beginning of something beautiful, or the unraveling of their fragile alliance. Would they be ready to face whatever came next, head on? As the door creaked open, a figure stepped inside. A tall, broad-shouldered man wrapped in an air of authority that semi-illuminated the dim kitchen. It was Mr. Hollingsworth, the neighborhood's most notorious voice of dissent. He often spoke in debate forums, holding firm opinions that drew lines between neighbors more than they joined them. Tension rippled through the room. "Did I hear something about a potluck?" Mr. Hollingsworth's voice was low and measured, but carried an edge. The room fell silent, the air growing thick between them. "Yes. We were just brainstorming ideas," Maria replied, her tone steady, though he could sense the slight quiver beneath it. "We think a community event might help us all connect better." "Connect?" He raised an eyebrow, skepticism dancing across his features. "You mean to find out how to sell more cookies to each other? Seems rather quaint. What about real issues? Is this what we've come to?" Thomas felt his heartbeat intensify, an uncomfortable heat creeping up his neck. He exchanged glances with Maria, noting her defiance and determination to stand her ground. She took a deep breath, visibly mustering her courage. "Connecting over food is just the beginning. It's about opening dialogues and understanding each other," she said, her voice unwavering. "Different stories bring life to this community." "Stories," he snorted, seeds of disdain sown in the very air around them. "Some stories are better left untold." The murmurs of support for her idea faded, as Mr. Hollingsworth's presence loomed larger, his very being a wall between them and the progress they sought. Worry prickled at Thomas's mind. Was he right? Would they actually be stepping into a mess of complications? Then Jenna spoke up, her voice trembling yet resolute. "What if we are brave enough to listen, to support each other through our hardships? Everyone deserves that chance." Thomas felt an unspoken cheer rise up within him at Jenna's bravery. Slowly others nodded, eyes lighting up with resolve. The room, once thick and heavy, felt as if hope was seeping through the cracks. But Mr. Hollingsworth wasn't done. "And what makes you think your stories matter to anyone outside this bubble? Have you considered that maybe bringing everyone together only opens wounds that shouldn't be reopened?" Echoes of silent affirmations rang through the air. Thomas's mind raced. Was Mr. Hollingsworth planting seeds of doubt, or was there truth in his words? The thought twisted within him, igniting fresh fears while simultaneously awakening a surge of resilience. "But what if we spoke about what we've overcome?" Maria asserted with passionate intensity. "If we don't share those stories, we will never really know each other. How can we come together if we don't understand their battles?" A ripple of support coursed through the room as people began to lean in, reflective glances turning into solidarity. Deep in his gut, Thomas felt something rise, a mix of determination and fear intertwined. Their alliance was fragile, yet somehow it felt like it could withstand this tempest. As the reverberations of their debate echoed in the kitchen, Mr. Hollingsworth's lips pressed into a thin line. It was a sign he might turn their way or dig in deeper. But then the doorbell rang again, snapping everyone's attention back to the doorway, ice cascading down their spines anew. Who could it be now? Would they support or dismantle their fragile gathering? With anxiety shadowing their hearts, Thomas and Maria exchanged a knowing glance, both aware that whatever happened next could change everything. Would they have the strength to face yet another challenge? The door creaked open again, revealing a familiar face. It was Claire, one of the more reserved neighbors, her brow furrowed in concern. She had always kept to herself, but tonight an air of unease followed her as she stepped into the dim kitchen. "Sorry I'm late," Claire said, brushing her hair back nervously. "I heard voices arguing. I wasn't sure what was happening in here." Mr. Hollingsworth, still brandishing his skepticism like a weapon, crossed his arms and turned slightly toward her. "We were just discussing the necessity of storytelling, Claire. Some believe that sharing our personal journeys is vital to community building. Others?" He glanced at Maria and Jenna, a hint of a smirk forming. "Well, they think it's merely fluff." Claire's eyes darted between Mr. Hollingsworth and the others, a flicker of support igniting a storm of emotions within her. "You know," she started slowly, "I think stories can have power. Each person here has something that matters. First-hand experiences can bridge gaps." In that moment, something shifted. It was as if Claire's words were the gentle breath of fresh air needed to fan the spark of hope Maria and Jenna had ignited. More heads began nodding, and Thomas felt the sturdy foundation of their resolve solidifying with each passing heartbeat. However, Mr. Hollingsworth remained unmoved. His voice was a grating reminder of the obstacles that lay ahead. "This community has its problems, and I highly doubt a potluck will fix them. You risk digging up more than you intend. Some things are too painful to share." Thomas felt the temperature in the room plummet again. What if Mr. Hollingsworth was right? What if their attempts to connect revealed wounds best left hidden? But even as fear curled around him, another truth fought to break free. The very act of being vulnerable was an act of bravery. "That's exactly why we should do it," Maria countered, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "If we've lived through hardships, then we can learn from each other's stories. We hide behind our walls long enough. It's time to allow healing." Claire added, "My sister had struggled with mental health for years. I felt so alone in that fight. But the moment I shared that with someone, I learned I wasn't alone at all. Vulnerability creates connection." A soft murmur of agreement rippled through the room, emboldening them all. It seemed as though each time someone spoke from the heart, the layers of doubt shrouding their plans peeled back just a little more. Thomas, watching the flicker of hope grow within the gathered crowd, felt something warm wash over him. It was a sense of unity, like the community was finally becoming more than just houses on a block. It was home, a shared journey riddled with struggles and victories alike. But the mood shifted again when Mr. Hollingsworth stepped forward, his presence as imposing as a storm cloud. "Resilience can't be bottled up in a potluck," he thundered, fists tightening. "If you want to get through this, be ready for the fallout." The words hung heavy in the air. Thomas sensed the weight of the challenge ahead. They were on the precipice of something big, yet an unsettling uncertainty loomed, growing sharper with every ounce of conviction. Was the community truly ready to unleash their stories, to confront the very wounds they had so long kept hidden? Just as Thomas prepared to speak, the doorbell rang once more, a sound that sliced through the charged atmosphere like a knife. Everyone exchanged worried glances. Who could that be? He wondered aloud. As they stood there, anticipation trembled in every breath. Would this new arrival lend strength to their cause, or tip the scales into chaos? The door opened slowly, creaking on its hinges, revealing a young man Thomas recognized from the neighborhood. It was Josh, a wiry teenager with a furtive glance but a generous smile. His arrival seemed unexpected, yet his eyes held a spark of determination that immediately captured the room's attention. "Hey, I heard you guys—well, I heard shouting," Josh said, his voice unsteady. I thought maybe I should check in. Mr. Hollingsworth's skepticism was still heavy in the air, but a reactiveness buzzed in the energy of the room. Not a great time for drama, kid. We're discussing some serious community issues, he replied curtly. Yeah, I can see that, Josh said, not backing down. But maybe it's time I shared something too. Everyone in the room paused as Josh stepped further inside, closing the door behind him. There was a shared understanding among the adults, a silent agreement that they were all part of something bigger. They had been wrestling with their fears, each in their own way. And now here was a teenager ready to join the fray. He looked directly at Thomas. You know, I've never really fit in here. It's always felt like everyone has their struggles and lives to deal with. But I've got my own story. His voice wavered, revealing the raw edges of his courage. What do you mean? Maria encouraged. You can share. We're all friends here. Josh fidgeted with the hem of his t-shirt. Last summer my mum got really sick. She couldn't work anymore. I had to step up and help out, pick up extra shifts. It was tough. I wasn't ready for that kind of responsibility. My friends just saw me as Josh with the sick mum, you know? Claire leaned closer, her own heart echoing his vulnerability. That's a heavy load to carry. But you did it. That's important. Right, he continued, emboldened by her empathy. It's why I wanted to be here tonight, I get it. I get the pain of trying to carry everything alone. His words rippled through the group, a surprising connection forming as they recognized bits of their own lives in Josh's experience. The barrier between the generations began to dissolve, creating space for shared understanding. They all had something to lose, something vital in their lives, needing to be held and nurtured. Vulnerability creates connection, Claire whispered, a knowing smile sharing a quiet moment with Maria. Mr. Hollingsworth, visibly frustrated, rolled his eyes. And what do you expect us to do with that kind of insight, kid? Just throw a party. Thomas felt the tide shift, the tension in the air suddenly electrifying. Maybe it starts there, he said, a flicker of light igniting within him. We've all been carrying something. Maybe we let the stories out, potluck or not. Together, it doesn't have to feel like it's just us fighting our own battles. There was a silent agreement in the room, a collective realization that their wounds didn't need to bear the weight of solitude any longer. Each story, no matter how small, could weave into a larger tapestry of healing they had all been craving. But before anyone could respond, a sudden bang echoed outside, startling them. The glass in the window rattled, and shadows moved past, frantic and urgent. What was that? Jenna said, glancing toward the window, her heart racing. A cold wave of uncertainty washed over the group. What was out there, and how would it interfere with the fragile moment they were building? In the tightening silence following the noise, a shared pulse raced through the room. Secrets lay just outside their walls. What came next could change everything. Would they be ready to face whatever storms brewed beyond? Thomas's heart raced as he exchanged glances with the others. The uncertainty hung thick in the air, a silent invitation for someone to break the tension. Jenna crossed her arms, clearly unnerved. "Shouldn't we check it out?" she suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Hollingsworth, still skeptical, shook his head. "It's probably just kids messing around. We don't need to waste time on every little noise." But Josh seemed undeterred, an ember of resolve igniting in his chest. "What if it's more than that? We've been talking about connection, right? Maybe this is our chance to prove it." His eyes darted to the window where shadows flickered again, fleeting, but undeniably there. "I can't just sit here," Claire said, determination settling on her brow like a protective shield. She stood, straightening her back, and moved towards the window. Every step radiated the courage they all needed right now. Without thinking, Thomas followed her. He could feel the others inching closer, drawn by her bravery. The world outside was cloaked in darkness, save for the flickering streetlight at the corner. From here they could see figures, hunched, darting from one shadow to another. "Who are they?" Maria asked, her voice trembling with concern. "I don't know, but maybe they need help," Thomas said, surprised by his own boldness. The idea came rushing in like a river breaking through a dam. His own burden felt lighter when viewed through the prism of shared struggle. Instead of focusing on their fears, they could focus on action, on being there for someone who might be suffering just as they had. Murmurs rippled through the group as they weighed their options. Claire turned, looking at them, her expression fierce. "We can't ignore this. If it feels wrong and we just sit here, what does that say about us?" Her conviction made Thomas's chest swell with a blend of pride and apprehension. They were standing at the crossroads of fear and courage, and all it took was a single step to make a difference. With that he walked to the door, the wood cool beneath his palm. It felt solid, reassuring. Let's go see what's happening. Together. The weight of vulnerability they had shared earlier fused into the strength of unity now. Outside, the air was charged, electrifying, the kind of night that promised change. The group followed him, each step echoing a silent promise to face whatever lay ahead. As they stepped out onto the cracked pavement, the shadows morphed into familiar faces, young people looking just as scared and bewildered as they were. "What's going on?" Thomas called out, his voice firm. The figures froze, lifting their heads. One of them stepped forward, a girl with wild curls and a smudged face. "We didn't mean to intrude. We heard shouting and thought—" She paused, glancing back at her friends. "We thought someone needed help." That moment blossomed with so much unspoken understanding between both groups. An invisible thread tied them together in their shared fears and hopes. "We do need help," Claire piped up, stepping beside Thomas. "And so do you." For an instant the atmosphere shifted. The night hung there, full of promise as they all stood together, tears glistening in the corners of eyes that had seen too much. But before they could delve deeper into the revelation of each other's stories, a loud crash shattered the fragile tranquility. The sound came from the alley beside them, sharp and echoing like a gunshot in the quiet night. "What was that?" Jenna gasped, stepping backward. The group's hearts thundered as they turned to face the danger lurking in the shadows. They had opened a door. Would they dare to walk through it now? There was no turning back. The night had shifted, and they were on the brink of discovery, poised on the edge of change. Who would they find waiting in the darkness? The reverberation of the crash still lingered in the chill of the night, and for a moment everyone froze. The tension was alive, palpable. Hearts raced in unison, feeling like a distant drumbeat echoing into the darkness. Thomas's eyes darted towards the alley, heart pounding as the fear surged through him. What could be waiting beyond those shadows? "Maybe we should head back," Jenna suggested, her voice shaky. Fear drew her back a step, but it was too late. Curiosity had already dug its claws deep into the group. "No," Claire asserted, stepping forward yet again, the resolve in her voice weaving through the uncertainty that threatened to swallow them whole. "We need to see who or what is in there. What if someone really is in trouble?" Thomas felt that tug of solidarity again, the way fear could bind people together, create an unbreakable bond. He looked around at Jenna, Josh, Maria, and even Mr. Hollingsworth, who seemed taken aback by Claire's fierce determination. Everyone was scared, not just of the noise, but of what stepping into the unknown might bring. Yet they also sensed something greater, the pull of empathy, of action over inaction. Without another word, Thomas took a deep breath and stepped toward the alley, the shadows stretching before him like dark fingers reaching out. The others hesitated only briefly before following, an unspoken understanding anchoring them together. As they approached the alleyway, the darkness felt heavier, the air thick with anticipation. They could hear muffled voices now, blending into an incomprehensible chorus of emotions: distress, anger, and vulnerability. Thomas squinted, trying to make out the figures. "Hello?" he called, pushing his voice through the veil of darkness. It felt brave, but there was a waver in his tone. He was trying not to show how frightened he genuinely felt. Silence fell. The air around them thickened, and for just a moment it seemed like the whole world had stopped. Then a figure emerged from the gloom. It was a boy, a little older than Thomas, with disheveled hair and wide, pleading eyes. His clothes were tattered, but it was the desperation on his face that struck Thomas most. We're okay. We're hiding," the boy stammered, glancing over his shoulder nervously. "We didn't mean to scare you." Before any of them could respond, another figure stepped out, older, worn down by life, but with a fierce spark of protection in her gaze. This was clearly the boy's sister, her arms crossed over her chest. "You shouldn't be here," she warned, her voice firm. "Wait." Claire stepped forward again, her tone softer, laced with concern. "We're not here to hurt you. We heard the crash." "It wasn't anything," the brother interrupted, urgency pressing into his words. "Just some stuff fell over. We really should go." But it was that moment, right then, that pulled Thomas in deeper. A feeling rushed over him, a call to action that overcame his fear. "Are you in trouble? Are you safe?" The sister's eyes narrowed, but he could see the glimmer of hope just beneath the surface. "It's not what you think. We just need a place to stay. We're not bad people, we swear." Thomas glanced back at his friends, all of them uncertain but also brimming with empathy. They had all only started facing their own challenges head-on. Perhaps now they could offer help. Before he could clasp onto that moment of courage too tightly, another loud clatter resonated from the farther reaches of the alley, catching everyone off guard. "Get down!" the sister shouted, pulling her brother behind her as they all instinctively ducked low. The fear surged again, but something else crackled in the air. It was a push towards connection, towards understanding. In this moment of uncertainty, how many more struggles could they uncover about each other? Thomas's heart beat heavily with tension and a flicker of hope. Did they dare to confront the chaos of the night and bridge the gaping void between them, like so many broken pieces waiting to be mended? As the shadows stirred around them, the question hung in the air, electrifying and full of potential. What awaited them just beyond the veil of darkness? The alley crackled with tension, fear flickering between the faces in the dim light. Everyone huddled together, confusion mingling with a shared resolve, stripped down to their raw humanity. "Why are you hiding?" Thomas asked, his voice steady and calm despite the volatility of the moment. "No one should have to feel afraid. We actually want to help." The sister's defenses slowly lowered. "You don't understand. We can't go home. It's not safe there." Thomas caught a glimpse of the brother's face, trembling under the weight of fears and burdens far too heavy for his age. A pang of empathy washed over him, and he stepped closer. "Listen, we've all been struggling, but together, maybe we can find a way to change all that." Jenna, standing beside Thomas, nodded fiercely. "You don't have to go through this alone." Her voice was imbued with warmth, cutting through the shadows that loomed. For the first time, the siblings exchanged worried glances, a flicker of hope darting across their faces as they considered a leap of faith. "We just need a place to stay until things change," the sister admitted reluctantly, eyes darting around the dimly lit alley. "Some food, a little hope." The group exchanged glances. This wasn't what they had imagined when they set out, an unexpected twist in their night becoming an unbreakable bond in their struggle. "Then come with us," Thomas blurted out, the urgency building inside him. The alley felt constrictive, the outside world called gently, luring them toward warmth and understanding. "Let's go back to our place. We can figure out a plan." "Are you sure?" the brother asked, his voice wavering but tinted with a hint of promise. "Yes, absolutely." Claire stepped forward, her face brightening. "There's enough room. We have food, and we all need to share our stories." As if the magic of hope ignited the air, the siblings took a tentative step forward, their uncertainty refracting into cautious trust. The group turned to lead the way, stepping into the warmth of their homes, hearts beating as one steady rhythm, echoing resilience. Once inside, the kitchen glowed with soft light. It smelled of warmth, freshly baked goods and laughter, a stark contrast to the shadows they had just left behind. Maria wasted no time, ushering the siblings to the table. "Eat something. You're safe here." Trembling, the brother wanted to refuse but was reluctant to deny his body the nourishment so desperately needed. He slowly sank into a chair, the stool creaking under the weight of all their combined burdens. As they shared food, the weight of silence began to fade, replaced by stories. Claire shared her experience with her sister's mental health issues. Josh bravely spoke of his struggles with feeling unseen and unheard. Maria shared tales of raising her children alone, recounting the triumphs and heartaches that shaped her journey. She spoke of love, the fierce kind that perseveres against all odds. In that room, An unspoken alchemy unfolded as they crossed the thresholds of isolation. Every story peeled back layers of fragility and exposed raw strength. Then, it was the sister's turn. She shared her tale of loss, heartbreak, and the fight for hope against circumstances beyond her control. Her words rang deep within them, echoing grievances they had all faced in one way or another. "We never meant to intrude," she finally said, her voice laced with shame. "We just wanted to feel safe." "No need to feel ashamed," Thomas replied, heat rising in his chest as he thought back to their own fears too heavy to carry alone. "This is what we do. We stand together. We support each other." The unshed tears swelled in the brothers' eyes, and for the first time they felt seen. "I always believed no one would understand them, but now they did." In that moment of connection, each fear began to lift, carried off by the light of understanding. Each voice, once silenced by isolation, had manifested a symphony of lessons interwoven with hope. As the evening advanced, the conversation shifted effortlessly, a collective firm belief emerging in the power of change. "That's not just about our stories anymore," Claire declared, placing a hand on the brother's shoulder. "It's about moving forward, reaching out, and building a community where no one feels alone. I propose we organize our potluck together, one that truly celebrates everyone's stories," Thomas suggested, adrenaline rising. "Let's share food, laughter, and the beauty of overcoming together." The room ignited with enthusiasm. "Yes, let's mark this night in so many ways," Jenna exclaimed, calling everyone to lift their spirits. With plans set into motion, they began to laugh and brainstorm ideas, igniting a collective fervor that banished doubt and beckoned change. They realized that the nourishment they sought was not just physical. It stemmed from understanding and embracing each other's truth. As the gathering wound down, and energies swelled around plans to continue their demonstrated growth into a supportive community, a ripple of joy permeated the room. They felt lighter, empowered, and joined together in themselves as neighbors and friends. One final thing hung in the air, something unsaid. Hope was no longer a whispered wish shrouded in shadows. It became a collective promise, stronger than any individual burden they had faced. As they rose that night, hand in hand, ready to face tomorrow, they knew they could rewrite the narrative one connection at a time. They were prepared to challenge the doubts that had long kept them apart, and as the night draped softly around them, they stepped into the dawn of a new beginning together. This is a moment we can't let slip away. It's time to continue sharing our truth. If you found inspiration in this transformative story, you need to subscribe now and join our journey. Hit that like button now to show your support and help us spread positivity in the world. Leave a comment and tell us how this story impacted you. Let's continue the conversation on love, community, and resilience. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Let's uplift each other as we inspire hope in our lives.